You were actually. The Hamas has tried to accept the global consensus of a two-state solution, a big compromise for Palestinians, accepting just 22% of their homeland in the West Bank and Gaza. Israel's refused to join the rest of the world in accepting that two-state solution. Even Iran has voiced at times support for that. It's only Israel and the U.S. that insist on Israel's right to put Gaza under siege and steal Palestinian land in the West Bank. And that's why you have this continued escalation. Hezbollah intervened on October 8th because they wanted to show Israel that there would be costs for committing mass murder, which is what Israel has done. And that's why Hezbollah was involved. Hezbollah said from the start it would stop its rockets if Israel stopped committing mass murder. Israel, unfortunately, is more committed to mass murder because it insists on the right to control that entire land and not accept Palestinians as equal human beings. That's the fundamental problem here.
Okay. Fleur Hassan Nahum,
I mean, I don't know where to start. I really don't know where to start. First of all, he's talking about mass murder on October 8th. We were attacked on October 7th. We hadn't even gone in on October 8th. So I really don't understand what you're talking about. Secondly, he completely
You were waging the longest military occupation in the world.
Yes, well, let's go to that. In 2005, Israel left the Gaza Strip. Now, at that point, the Gazans could have done one of two things: turn it into a wonderful pilot for a Palestinian state, which you think they want, and I don't believe they actually do. And instead, they turned it into Mogadishu, into Beirut, as it were. Instead of investing in its people, they invested in tunnels to attack and to use their people as human shields. That's just a fact. Tell me, why did they not build a beautiful place in 2005 until today? You know why? Because Hamas came into power, and Hamas is not interested in a state. Hamas is interested in destroying the Jewish state, and that is the crux of the conflict. And you are on the wrong side of history. One day you're going to wake up and realize this. At the bottom line is that the conflict is not because there isn't a Palestinian state. The conflict is because there's a Jewish state that has never been accepted. And that's why in 1947, they didn't accept the partition plan. And that is why after Oslo in 2000, they didn't accept the two-state solution. We gave them 93% of the West Bank and the entire Gaza. That's why in 2009, an even more generous peace deal, and they didn't accept it. And the bottom line is this: they don't want a state. They want, and they're invested emotionally, logistically, and militarily in the destruction of the state of Israel. Israel wants to live in peace. We don't want to rule in other people.
Okay, but Fleur, all right, Fleur, but Fleur, let me ask you this.
Way,
all right, hang on, please. Hang on, let me ask a question.
Are Arabs
no, Fleur,
in our
let me ask you a question.
That live side by side with Jews.
Yeah, Fleur, here's what I don't get about what you've just said. Is that you talk about destruction and the threat of destruction. And I get that. Hamas is wedded to destroying Israel, as are Hezbollah.
It's in their charter.
Fine. But what is Israel doing right now in Gaza? You are destroying it. You're destroying Gaza, and you're killing tens of thousands of people in the process. No, but you are destroying Gaza in the most extraordinarily brutal manner.
Okay.
And you're going after... Let me finish, please. You're going after Hamas now in the very areas where you told the civilian population to go to. And in the process, you're killing a lot of innocent people. How can that be justified?
Hamas went into the humanitarian corridors because that's what they do. Exactly what Elika says. That is their modus operandi. They don't build tunnels under schools.
Well, if you know that, why do you send people to these specific areas?
We send them areas thinking that those areas are going to be areas we're not going to attack, and then Hamas throws rockets at us and attack our soldiers. Look, ultimately, we want two things. We want the dismantlement of Hamas, who is an existential threat to the state of Israel, and we want our hostages back. If that happens in an hour, it's over. If Hezbollah move north of the Litani in an hour, it's over. And both of you are in the wrong side of history here, because the Islamic Republic of Iran, who is the big puppet master of all of this, they've got much wider ambitions than Israel. They're going to be coming everywhere. They are the Hitler of the 1930s, and that is what we're facing. So you two can keep deluding yourselves that this is about Israel, and what a coincidence, the only Jewish state in the world, and somehow we're the aggressors. You know what? Thousands of years we've heard the same libels that we're hearing right now. This is just another form of it, but we will survive and we will prevail, because bigger people than the Islamic Republic of Iran and bigger people than the enemies that we now face have tried to destroy us, and we're still here.
Okay. Wajah, I mean, look, I have a lot of issues with what Israel is doing in Gaza. I have issues about the way they're rapidly escalating what they're doing in Lebanon. But I also have a massive issue with what Hamas represent and what they represent to Israelis and what Hezbollah represent, because they make no pretense. They want to destroy Israel. They want to get rid of Israel. And if you are Israel and you're an Israeli living in Israel, they represent an existential threat to your existence. What else is Israel supposed to do? Sit back and let these people destroy them, or defend themselves as best they can? I mean, that seems to me to be at the crux of the Israeli side of this, which is, what else are they supposed to do in the manner they killed them and boast about it to the world?
Lebanon from within.
In response, Hamas knew that, and they knew that the casualties would be thousands of their own people.
Lebanese, guiding them on revolutionary air.
In the manner they, these are the issues on, these are the issues on the Hamas Hezbollah side, which really, I just can't, I don't see the answer. If you're ready to destroying it, yeah, Elika, yeah.
Terrorist groups, they're both
Let me bring in Elika.
Okay. So the entire arguments that are being made here are based on revisionist history. That's first things first. The even way that you frame Hezbollah as the victim, as the non-aggressor, to where you frame Israel as escalating despite Hezbollah's repeated history of aggression, okay? First of all, the way you even describe Hezbollah's inception is wrong. Let's talk about Hezbollah's inception, which was after the 1979 revolution. Let me finish. After the 1979 revolution in Iran, Hezbollah, okay, was inspired by this, and Assad visited Iran and asked Khomeini, what can we do for you? Khomeini said, give me a passage to Syria, to Lebanon, so I can export my radical ideologies over to Lebanon. They did that, and then they started killing the Shiite Muslims in the north of Lebanon while there was an invasion by Israel from the south. Why was there an invasion from the south? There was an invasion because the PLO were in southern Lebanon firing rockets into Israel after they just got expelled from Jordan because they were doing the same thing, hijacking planes, okay, landing them on revolutionary airports, blowing them up in front of international media. Then they go to southern Lebanon and they start destroying internal political dynamics in southern Lebanon. Now you have the Christian Maronites and the Muslims fighting each other in the first Lebanon civil war, okay? They destroyed Lebanon from within just because of the desire to launch its rockets from Lebanon into Israel. Then it went up to Beirut and started fighting with the Christian Maronites to assert domination in Lebanon. Why? Because they are jihadists. And then what happens in 1978, which is the first invasion of Israel into Lebanon. Why? Because the PLO did an attack on a bus in Israel that killed 38 people. Israel goes in to try and take out the PLO. And then the UN requires them to retreat, and they retreat, and then they send their UN interim forces for Lebanon, okay, to take out the PLO. The UN runs away and the PLO comes back, continues its attack, okay? The second invasion into Lebanon, because of the continued attacks, they go in once more, and because the PLO doesn't leave, they have to create this occupation, right? And then as soon as they removed the occupation in 2000 with Ehud Barak and Clinton, what happens is that Hezbollah advances to the border of Israel and starts attacking again. And then comes the UN resolution 1701 requiring not only that Hezbollah stays 10 kilometers back from the northern border, okay, but also that all of these militias in Lebanon have to disband, and there can only be a militarized Lebanese government. Israel abided. Who did not abide? Hezbollah. Then what did Hezbollah do for 18 years? For 18 years in the zone that they were not allowed to be, they started expanding their military capacities up to 200,000 munitions, and then finally on October 8th started attacking. And then when Israel responded with that pager attack, why did they do that? Why did they do that? Because the commanders, the leaders of Hezbollah had a plan to attack northern Galilee and do a second October 7th, kidnap hostages with a ground invasion. Now you tell me, what should Israel do?
Okay, well,
and for those who don't know, imagine like Swiss cheese, right? There's holes in the Swiss cheese. The holes are their settlements, expanding. What's left is this barely, you've seen this, Piers, you know the map, this pathetic small piece of land that's left for the Palestinians. So no matter what happens, I'm sorry to say this, Palestinians are screwed. Yet still they say, fine, give us this pathetic moth-eaten ridden land because you have expanded the settlements. We'll still take it. Give us freedom. At the end of the day, every single group on earth wants freedom. And that's the one thing Israel refuses to do.
Okay, let me bring in, hang on, let me bring in Fleur here.
Let them be free.
Let me bring in Fleur. Right, so I want to ask you this, Fleur. You can respond, but I want to ask you this. Why should Palestinians not be afforded the exact same human rights as Israelis?
They want their land, or do they want to be part of Israel? That's my question to you.
No, I've asked you a question. Why should they not?
You've asked.
Why should they not, in principle?
Do they want their own state?
Why should they,
my question is,
Fleur,
do they
answer
want
the question.
state?
Why should they not be entitled to the same
Yes.
human rights that you have and that I have?
They should.
But they don't
Says
have
they
them.
shouldn't. Well, one second.
They
Let's
absolutely
talk
should,
about
but they need
Oslo,
to
because we're
respect
talking.
their
Let Fleur
We're
talk.
talking like we're talking as if Israel hadn't tried 5 times already to create a state. That's how we're talking here. So what happened in Oslo? In Oslo,
Yes, because it's
the
not
West
true. They
Bank,
haven't.
Judea and
They never have.
Samaria. Okay, 1 second, rape denier. In Judea and Samaria, Judea and Samaria was split into area A, B, and C. The majority of Palestinian cities, where the majority of the Palestinian population live, are in area A's and B. The areas that we're talking about, really about Swiss cheese and all these metaphors that you all like to use, is area C, where the least amount of Palestinians live. Now, if they really wanted autonomy, and Tony Blair was here for about 10 years trying to create state institutions, and he failed. Why did he fail? Because you either have murderous terrorist groups or you have corruption. Why did Khania have $4 billion? Why does Mahmoud Abbas have private jets? Why are his sons billionaires? Why? Because all of the money that the West has given these entities, these government entities, to create a state, to start creating state institutions, to do better for their people, to create an economy, all of that has gone into the pockets. So what do we have? We have a Palestinian leadership which is either believes in the destruction of the state of Israel, or the ones who don't, they just steal. So what are you left with? I really want a Palestinian Mandela. I really want a Palestinian Gandhi. I want to live in peace. I don't want to rule another people, and nobody in Israel does. But